Hey guys, it's May here, and today I'm going to be showing you how I cut my hair. Without fail, I'll always get one comment asking who cut my hair or where I cut my hair, but I actually just cut my own hair because I don't trust barbers. They literally cut like 5 inches off my hair without asking what I literally just wanted to trim. So if you also have a fear of hairdressers, you can follow my tutorial. But disclaimer, I am not a professional, so if you mess it up, don't blame me. So what you will need to cut your own hair is you will need a pair of professional scissors, okay? We're not doing no freaking kitchen scissors in this household, okay? We're doing everything DIY, but professional. These are the Tweezerman scissors. They're stainless steel and you could get, and they're very, very sharp, which is good for your hair. And then you will also need a straight tooth comb and then also a razor. And then of course a hairbrush. And ideally you have a water like spray bottle, but I don't, so I'm just gonna be like drenching my hair under the sink. Which is not ideal, but you know, it's gotta be ratchet at least some way, right? Okay, first step of the tutorial is parting. This is arguably the most difficult part because you just cannot see the back of your head, but we will make do and try our best. Alright, first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna find the apex of your head, which is literally just the top of your head. I don't know why they call it the apex, but just find the top of your head, kind of the center, and then you're gonna want to part your hair from that point down a little behind your ear. So I just use my fingertips and then you can see that's one part right there. And yes, I will be exposing my bald spot a lot, so you know, chill out on the comments, please. Oh, and I forgot, you will be needing a decent amount of hair ties just so you keep all your parting organized. So I'm gonna grab my scrunchie and just kind of separate what I just parted away from my hair. So I don't have a lot of hair here, but you know, if you're cutting your hair for the first time, you might have a lot more hair than me. The amount of hair you have doesn't matter, so it's okay. And then we're gonna follow on the other side. You're gonna again get the apex, which is the top of your head, and then just using your fingernail kind of trail a little behind your ear. There's gonna be a lot of trial and error with the hair parting, so it took me probably like 10 minutes just to like make sure all the parting is right. So you know, it's okay if yours doesn't look right. So yeah, as you can see, this is uneven, so I think I'm gonna redo this part. And then what I like to do to check my part is to either have like a second mirror, or I'm just gonna use my phone and just kind of like film myself and just like like this, and then check back the clip just to see if it worked. So I'm gonna show you guys what this part should kind of look like. Hopefully you can see that clearly. But basically it kind of starts from a little behind my ear and it's just like a circle around my head. Hopefully you guys will be able to replicate that. So now you're actually going to tie these pieces out separately. Okay, now that you've parted the front layers, you're going to now part the back layers. So, okay, first step, you're just going to part your hair from the middle down. So you have it in like halves. It's going to look like this. It's gonna look really insane. And then now I'm just tying this hair out of the way so it doesn't get in my way. Now if you see here, you have this part. You're gonna kind of go in like the middle of that section and then just drag a line all the way to the center. So it kind of looks like this, and then you're gonna want to do the same thing on the other side. First you're gonna want to just kind of clip this hair away so it doesn't get in the way, of course. Just kind of like that. Okay. I think I've gotten a general good parting. It doesn't look perfect, but what the idea is just that you want kind of like a sort of U shape in the back, if that makes sense. Now the hard part is over, and now we just get to the fun part, which is scissoring. Not in that way, well, it could be in that way, but now we get to just pick up the scissors and chop away. So I like to cut on wet hair, but if you're a little bit more inexperienced, maybe cut it on dry hair just so you're seeing what is being cut and you're seeing what your hair looks like while you're doing the haircut. But I still personally think cutting on wet hair is easier, just like because everything is more like stiff and you're just able to cut it more easily. But you know, I guess personal preference. Now that my hair is wet, we're gonna start on the bottom layer of our hair. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab kind of like a middle section just with your 2 fingers like that. And that will be your guideline. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna grab that section and start brushing it. It's kind of a workout. But as you're brushing, you're just making sure that all the pieces are straight. But as you're brushing, you're going to grab your hand and you're going to kind of guide it up. And then you're going to pause like that. Your finger should be parallel to the floor. Not like this, but like this, okay? So I'm gonna cut like around that much off because I think those pieces are really dead. And so now I'm just gonna grab your scissors and cut straight across. Okay, my freaking camera just died, but I'm pretty sure this is where we left off at. You just cut this piece. You're gonna hold it, don't let go of it, and you're gonna take another like section of hair that you haven't cut yet. So I'm just gonna take like this much more-ish, and I'm gonna add it to the piece I just cut. And now I'm gonna brush everything up with it. And make sure you're following like the angle of your head. So if I'm cutting like the back piece, I'm having the pieces like this way. But if I'm like cutting more pieces towards like the side of my head, I'm gonna be brushing my hair like from this side, if that makes sense. Like you're not still gonna be having your hair being brushed back if you're cutting the pieces on the side, if that makes sense. But anyways, so you're gonna be brushing everything up, and then at the same angle, oh my god, I need to like squat down. So you're gonna brush everything up at the same angle, and you're gonna see that there's like pieces sticking out, and then the pieces that you already cut. So you're just gonna cut those pieces off. And then you're gonna repeat for this piece that you haven't cut yet. You don't really need to hold all the pieces. You can, but you can also just like take a section so you're not holding that much hair too. So I'm just gonna grab like half of the pieces that I have already cut, just so I'm not brushing that much hair up. Just keep the guideline. This is what we're gonna call the guideline, okay? Just keep the guideline somewhere like safe. And now for the last piece, we're gonna do the same thing, brushing everything up at the same angle. And then obviously it's a little harder to see your guideline because, you know, we have less of it, but you can still see it like right there. So we're just gonna cut along there. So now this section is done, and now we need to move on to this section. So again, this is the uncut side, this is the cut side. I'm gonna grab like a bit of the guideline so, you know, we know how much to cut. Just gonna bring it over. So this is the guideline. So I'm gonna take like half of the uncut hair and then bring that over with my guideline. And I'm gonna brush everything up at the same angle. And then it's a little harder to do because it's like the other side, but you know, you'll manage somehow, right? Ugh. So we've brushed that up, and you can vaguely see like the density change. Like there's more hair here, and this is like the extra pieces. So you're just gonna cut along right there. It might be a little hard to see your guideline, and so if it is, you should grab more guidelines so it looks like there's more like density change, so it's like clearer like where you should cut. But I should cut like around there. So I cut off that much, and now we're gonna keep that and then just add in the rest of the uncut hair, and then brush everything up at the same angle. Oh no, hair is falling out. I want to get everything. This is why I'm saying like wet hair might be easier, just because of like how much hair you have to freaking grab and hold and make sure it's like not falling out. This is another section. You can see the like extra hairs are sticking out, and then this is your guideline. So I'm just gonna cut along there. So it should look something like that. And now your bottom pieces are done. So this is what your bottom layer should look like. I didn't cut that much off, to be honest. That's what I like about layered hair. You can cut off like a bunch of hair, but it feels like you still have a lot of hair just because like it doesn't change the length too much. And then this is what the back looks like. Feels so much better already because my hair was so dead. Now we're gonna move on to the top layer. This part might be tricky, so listen and watch carefully. What you're gonna do with this section is you're just gonna take it out and then let go of it and then just brush it in with the rest of the hair. We're gonna do the same thing and get our guideline. So from the top, I'm gonna get my guideline, but make sure that you grab kind of guidelines from below your hair, like definitely halfway past your head. You want to make sure that you grab enough to get some of that bottom layer. So before with my bottom layer, I was brushing it out at like a more diagonal angle, but this time because I want like more layers, I'm just gonna like brush it out a little higher, like this angle instead of this angle. We're gonna do here because I want more layers this time. And then you're gonna brush up at the same angle, making sure that your finger is parallel to the floor, not this way, but this way. And then here, if you look very carefully, you can see that that's your bottom layer. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna match that guideline from before and then just cut all these hairs off. And then now again, we're gonna grab some sections from the pieces that we haven't cut, which is down here. You're gonna do the same thing and kind of draw your finger down and then making sure to scoop a little bit from that bottom layer and then adding it to our piece that we've cut already. And then just brushing up. And then you can see that this is our guideline from below and then this is the part that we want to cut off. And then we're going to add in our last final piece, which is this. So now moving on to the other side, I'm gonna grab that guideline again, which was from the middle, and then also, which is from like the middle-ish, and then also grab some pieces that I haven't cut. And so you see that there's like some pieces sticking out there, so you're gonna cut that off. And then to make sure everything's even, I'm just gonna go through like a little last check, and then just to make sure everything that needs to be cut is cut. So like this part for some reason got a little uneven, so I'm going to cut that part off. And then you could check if your pieces are even by kind of grabbing two pieces and just raising it up just to check if it's even. That looks about even. Now that you've checked it and made sure everything is even, I'm just like making sure that this is like the length of layers I want, because I like it to be a little more short, So I'm just gonna grab like a back piece. I like the shortest layer here to kind of sit at like the back of my neck. So now we're gonna move on to these pieces, which you're just going to take out, and then you're gonna grab this piece and kind of just brush it in with the rest of the hair, which you're gonna grab kind of there, and then just brush it up. Oh my god, this is like the most terrible freaking angle, but you're gonna brush it up. But honestly, like my front pieces are short enough where if I brush it back, it doesn't stick out. I mean, there's like literally two pieces that stick out, but if you have like, a different haircut, you may have a lot of pieces that stick out. So this is your guideline. The back pieces that you just brushed with your front pieces are your guideline, but I just don't have that much hair in the front. So now I'm gonna grab kind of horizontal sections over here, kind of like this, if that makes sense. Not too much from the back, just like horizontal sections, and you're gonna brush it out straight like this. And once you get to this part, you're gonna see that these pieces are longer than these pieces, and you're gonna want to cut it straight so that it matches. So essentially, this is your guideline, like that. And then this is what kind of creates that sort of like front layer pieces. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And then you might notice that there's a little bit of chunkiness from where you just cut it. So if it ends up like right here, you're gonna make sure that the hairs that follow underneath it kind of flow in a smooth way. This is when you're gonna get out your razor. You'll see that this is like the piece that you just cut from horizontally, but you want to connect it down. So from like that apex place, I like to kind of like create this diagonal line down, kind of like that, and then just kind of clip that away. And then again, this is the piece that we just cut. It's a little choppy, but you know, we'll fix that at the end. You're gonna grab your laser tool and also wet your hair. And from this chunk, you're gonna just glide your razor down to just smooth things out. So kind of just like this. Like that. And then you're gonna want to do that on the other side. Okay, now that you're done, you're gonna also want to make sure you cut your face framing pieces, which is arguably the most important part. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of section out again from the apex, which is here. You're gonna go down to your recession point, which is like, that's kind of like my recession point. And then you're going to grab your straight comb, and this kind of only applies for bangs, and I have bangs. If you don't have bangs or curtain bangs, I think you could just ignore this step. I'm not really too sure, but if you have bangs, you want to make sure that you have face framing pieces that come from the bangs down here, because right now it's like really just short and then long. You want to make sure that you have that kind of gradual layer just to make everything smooth. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna brush everything that you just sectioned out. And you're gonna kind of brush it from this point down in a diagonal angle. So kind of like this. And you're gonna take your razor and you're gonna start going down in a swift kind of small motion in a diagonal angle down, starting from like the bane point. So you see how this is my face framing and it's way too long. This is where the shortest this is where like the shortest piece is, and we want to make sure that we cut starting from where my bane starts. So like right here, I'm gonna do like a motion with my comb so you guys can see. So right here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my razor and I'm gonna go down from the banes and I'm gonna do this. Boop, 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 boop. Like that. It's a little hard to explain, but I'm gonna do it just like show you guys what it looks like. Grab my razor and just start cutting. I didn't do that well. I'm gonna redo it because I forgot to wet my hair. Whoops. Make sure you have wet hair because it doesn't really work if you don't have wet hair. The razor only glides on like wet hair. Low key, be careful with this step because you may really accidentally just like cut off a chunk of your hair. I've gone through a lot of trial and errors. If you're scared, you could also use scissors and kind of glide your scissors down, if that makes sense. Okay, that is what it should look like now. You can see that it's a lot more like lighter and just not as heavy. And I'm gonna also kind of trim this area because it's really chunky from when I cut it up here. So what I like to do is again take these pieces and bring it to the center. And you see how it's just like not even, like this part needs to be cut out. I'm just gonna cut off this part. Like that. And then I'm gonna repeat on the other side. Okay, so if you have thin hair, you can kind of just like leave it because you don't need to really debulk since, you know, there's not really much debulking to do. But if you have like thick hair or you just want more volume, you could do this thing where you could just start thinning out the hair. So what this means is you can take like a section of the hair just randomly and then brush up kind of at the same angle, and then you can kind of fan out the piece like this And you could just use your scissors and kind of just like snip away like this. Very carefully as to not just to cut off like a huge chunk. And you can see how these pieces are super like blunt, so you can just fan it out and then kind of thin it out with your scissors, but carefully as to not thin it out too much. Oh, it's called point cutting. You just want to point cut at all the parts of your hair. Alright, now you should be finally done with your haircut. You can see that it's a lot, like the layers are a lot shorter right here, which is what I want. I want it to be like super short, so it's just easier to style. You could also like not really lose length, but you know, you could still have layers. I do this like once every like 4 months. I'm trying to like grow my hair out, but also just like trim it once in a while because I don't like my layers are too grown out. It's just harder to style. But yeah, I'm going to take a shower. Oh my god, I'm so sweaty. And then I'll maybe style it today and then show you guys what it looks like. But I'll be back with what it looks like once it's styled. Okay, and here is my haircut in a little bit of better lighting. For some reason, I didn't style it as well as I would usually do, so this is the best you're gonna see it. But yeah, I've been cutting my hair since like maybe 6 years ago, and I've just consistently just cut it on my own because I don't trust salons. Like they cut off like 5 inches of my hair when I asked for a trim. Like, what's up with that? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial and I hope it helped you in some shape, way, or form. And thanks for watching as usual, and I'll catch you guys next time.